Hello, vagina. Cheers to being a woman, but womanhood, it's a jungle down there. Get ready to be real, raw, and totally uncensored as we explore the depths of health, sex, motherhood, and relationships. Strap in for those topics that make you cringe, make you blush, and make you want to hide your face. Welcome to the Hello Vagina podcast. Hello and welcome to the Hello Vagina podcast. Today with me I have a very special guest. We have Rachelle Lofts. She is a wife and a mama juggling 3 under 3. Welcome to the show, Rachelle.
Hi, thank you.
So 3 under 3, tell me, how is life with 3 under 3?
Yeah, a bit chaotic. It wasn't planned. But yeah, these things happen in twos apparently, and not very often, but we got the twins on the second go.
And did you have them naturally?
Yes. Oh, do you mean conceive them?
Conceived naturally, yeah.
Yes, conceived naturally, yes. I was a twin myself, and they run in my family a bit, so we always had the chance, but yes, didn't think it would happen.
Doesn't it normally skip a generation? Isn't that what they say?
It hasn't with our family.
Yeah.
It's gone every generation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I do know though that females, if the female's the carrier, like females are more likely to have them than the male child.
Yeah, so ours are fraternal, so boy and girl, so I release 2 eggs.
Yep.
And the identical ones, apparently the male sperm splits the egg, so they run on the male side. Yeah.
Ah, very interesting. So you just touched on you didn't give birth to them naturally. That was something that we were going to talk about today. We're going to touch on cesareans and I guess the part that they don't tell you. You know, we were discussing just before, it's something that they don't touch on in antenatal class. I guess we sort of get taught that we're just going to have a natural delivery and nobody really preps you for what's going to happen if you have a cesarean and how sort of scary that can be. Can you tell us a little bit about your C-section experience with the twins?
Yeah, so I went in not knowing anything, had no idea what I was expecting. A lot of people explained it as in a way of someone's rummaging through a handbag. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
And I really wish they elaborated on that a bit, because it does feel like that, but I didn't realize that you can actually feel a lot more than that, like them moving organs around and a lot of pressure, and you feel everything pretty much just with no pain. So yeah, that was the scariest part. I think it mentally scarred me just feeling all that. Yeah. I was going in expecting to be completely numb and not feel a thing. Yeah, that was the scariest part. Yeah. I also didn't like knowing the date. So like having my babies planned planning their birthday, I didn't really like that. And the whole fact that you had to count down to this traumatic experience that you're going to have. Yeah. That was another thing that added to it. A lot of parents, mothers, I should say, get to choose to have a C-section. I didn't. I was put in that situation because Braden was breech. So I was aiming to have a natural delivery, but with him feet down, the doctor said he just didn't want to risk the chances of something going wrong. Yeah, I can honestly say I had a horrible experience, but other mums might have, a great experience and then think it's over in 2 minutes and you've got a baby instead of hours and hours of labour. So yeah. But with my son, my natural delivery, I was up walking around within, minutes of giving birth, had a shower, relaxing. And with this one, I was in bedridden for, over a day. You get made to get out of bed and walk and you're not really ready.
And that disconnect from the babies as well, sort of lacking that ability to connect with your baby straight away. Did they sort of put them up near you sort of get them up near like those photos you see where people have shared a picture from their Caesar delivery with a baby sort of just laying next to the side of their face?
Yes, pretty much. It was you sitting there with a hair mitt on with 2 babies either side of your head. Yeah. But yeah, you get that first glimpse of your babies and then they're just whisked away. And probably because it is twins as well, they were put on oxygen for a bit and checked if they were breathing properly and whatnot, because they were well, they were full term, technically, 37 weeks, 2 days. So I made it a fair distance of the pregnancy with them.
Yep.
But yeah, not having that bond time straight after, like with my son Maverick, he was put straight on my chest. And I don't know, I just got that bond instantly with him doing that. And with the traumatic experience I had with the C-section and having them taken away and then wheeled into recovery for 2 hours and not seeing anyone or not knowing anything, I just didn't get that feeling when I got them. I don't know if it's just me or if it's normal, but yeah.
And I think that is sort of one of the downsides to having a cesarean that they don't really tell you about is, you know, they probably don't put an emphasis on having a second support person to stay with you while you're in recovery. You know, obviously your partner is going to go off with the baby or the babies. But then you're left at something that I've definitely had a lot of mums share with me, that feeling of being alone. Like nobody sort of puts it in the front of your mind that you're going to be in recovery all by yourself straight after you've had the babies, because the babies go somewhere else and your partner goes somewhere else. So it's just you alone, and you might have chosen to have a second person with you to actually stay with you during that part. Was that something that they sort of mentioned to you about having a second support person, or it's just something that they don't
I don't think
about?
The second support, well, you're only allowed one in the actual C-section in the theatre. So I don't think you're offered the second one to go down there, because I think recovery is specifically for people in recovery. So you're alone no matter what. But I think it's more so your body can recover. So you've got to be, because they're pretty much numbed up to your ribs. Well, near your lungs, so that you have to get some feeling up there before you're actually released. So but yeah, it took forever for my feeling to come back.
And I suppose that's the hard part too, like just waiting for this sensation to come back so you can go and see your new babies.
Oh, I was getting anxiety just sitting there waiting for, every time they took my blood pressure and measured, they put an ice pack on your chest to measure how far down you're getting sensation. It seemed like ages, 2 hours after you've given birth to babies and you've not ever seen them, like you've seen them for a glimpse and then you're put away in this room without them. It just drags 2 hours.
Yeah, no, I'd imagine that would be really horrible. And then you sort of touched on recovery. So they getting you out of bed straight away after your C-section, trying to get you up and walking. How was your recovery in terms of being able to look after twins and a toddler that you already had at home?
Well, that was another thing. Like I didn't get to feed them the first couple of nights because I just couldn't move. So I had to send them into the overnight nurses, and they were feeding them during the night. Well, they were bringing them into me to feed because I was breastfeeding. But yeah, not being able to get up and change their bums. I didn't change their nappies for the first 3 or 4 days. Before I was actually able to bend over and change them and everything. So that was another bonding thing I didn't really get to do. Standing there in day 4, and I didn't even know how to do a newborn nappy again because it had been 2 years.
And then how did you go once you got home with the twins?
Recovery wasn't too bad. I used my belly band for a while. It just made me feel like my guts wasn't going to fall onto the ground, in all honesty, because you've got so much pressure on this scar down below that you feel like everything's just going to fall out. So you're constantly holding that when you're trying to walk and everything. So having that support really made a difference. But at home, the twins were on a nighttime feed. Well, they thought day was night and night was day. So that was really horrendous when we got home, because all through the night they were waking every hour to feed. If you're getting that milk in, they're constantly cluster feeding to get that milk in. And I just found my nipples were shredded. I was in pain. I tried all these different creams. They had a great latch. I had my nurse come over the first week we got home. She said, the latch is great. It's just because you've got 2 on you. So your poor nipples are going to be shredded and trying to heal. So that wasn't really working for me. And every time I went to feed them, I was crying because it was painful. And I just found that the nurses in the hospital, they always suggest breast, which I didn't mind because I breastfed my first son for 10 months. So I was really looking forward to giving it a go. But no one ever explained about if you needed to go onto bottles or if you needed to try a formula to top them up even. There's so much information in hospitals about breastfeeding and latching and all this other things that there's no information about what's good formula, what's a good bottle. And that's where I think we're really overwhelmed with me being so depressed with breastfeeding. And now the having to figure out what kind of formula and bottle to use. And then, of course, our babies turned out to have reflux.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 spewing babies and not knowing why. So we had to get reflux bottles and a thicker formula. And just not knowing that information just really made our home experience a lot harder. Even if you're going to try and breastfeed in hospital, I think they should at least give you that information so when you get home and you do need to swap to bottle, you've got it.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a lack of information from the antenatal point of view before you've even had your babies to sort of give you some information around, the possible things that can happen with breastfeeding. I think we get painted this picture that it's going to be so easy. We don't get told about bleeding nipples and cracked nipples and nipple thrush. I learned about nipple thrush the other day. Like I didn't even know your nipples could get thrush, mastitis, like nobody tells you any of these things. They just, like you said, they teach you, baby goes on boob and milk comes out. That's sort of as simple as it is. And then hospital, helps you with a little bit more on latch, but they're still not really touching on any of the negative sides or the difficult parts of it. And they're not telling you, what are good bottles, like, the right teat size and the right teat shape and which bottle's a good bottle and what formula, is good for what. We really are lacking that information for new mums to be able to make that choice. And it's really sort of not portrayed too much as a choice. It's sort of breast is best rather than fed is best.
Yeah, exactly how I felt. And I mean, I was giving it a hot go. I gave it 2 weeks and then I just had to stop. And I've heard a lot of women go through the whole, their baby was starving and they didn't even know because they're a first-time mum and didn't have a clue. Like they were told breast is best and had no other idea of if they could top up with a bottle and feed as well. So there's all those options out there that no one really explains other than just breast.
Yeah, no, I had a mum, her baby was 3 days in hospital and clinically dehydrated. And she's like, I was feeding, but I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what, because first time mum, I'd never breastfed before. She's like, but it just I didn't feel like he was drinking. I didn't feel like I had milk coming out. Like I just didn't feel like it was doing what it was meant to be doing, and had to push for a pediatrician. So I guess that's another point, is to, feel more confident to ask and say, like, this isn't what I want to do. Like it doesn't feel right, because you as the mum know best, and to trust those gut feelings when it doesn't feel right for you.
Yeah, well, some mothers also have to go back to work. I had a friend that she couldn't breastfeed because single mum, had to go straight back to work after giving birth, and her mum was going to help her look after the bub. But that's why she wanted to get him straight onto the bottle. But yeah, they were just given this really awkward situation in hospital where, you're going to put straight on the bottle, like sort of judging,
Yeah,
it's a lot of judgment out there from even other mums about breastfeeding, and you see it in Breastfeeding Week more than anything. Can you just think there's some mothers out there that can't breastfeed, and not that they don't want to, they want to try, but they just don't have the supply, or other reasons mentally, like me. Like I had the supply, I had a massive supply, and I just couldn't mentally cope with it. Like it was making me feel down, having to rely just on myself, I guess, because it's twins. I wanted my husband to help. I wanted to shake him at 2 a.m. in the morning and go, let's get a bottle. So instead of just getting out on my own and having to do it all on my own pretty much. So having that helped me mentally a lot.
And I guess that's the point, is understanding how it's making you feel as well. And when you are starting to have those really negative feelings, to be able to address them and think that you don't have to stick it out. Unfortunately, it's not for everyone. It doesn't always work. Some people, like you touched on, some people don't get the milk supply, but we're sort of not told that in advance. Like some people won't get a milk supply, some people won't get a very strong milk supply. I've heard mums that like the hospital recommended they pumped like every 2 hours trying to make a milk supply come in, like pumping every 2 hours plus feeding when the baby wanted to be fed as well, and then pumping in between for like 4 weeks, and your milk supply still doesn't come in. Like the mental exhaustion of that with a newborn. Must
Yes,
be
and along with all
phenomenal.
the sterilizing of that as well, like
Yeah.
sterilizing a couple of bottles and then you sterilize your pump as well is a lot of work when you've just gotten home with a newborn and you're up all through the night.
Yeah, definitely.
That's another thing as well as pumping. Like, even if you feel like you're not getting enough into your baby, pumping won't give you the exact amount that you're actually producing because it like stimulates your breast a different way to the baby,
Yep.
if that makes sense. So your baby might get, 50 mils and you might pump 20, but you don't know that. The
Yep.
pumping doesn't actually give you the exact amount of milk you're giving your baby. So a lot of people don't know that either, because
Yeah.
my breasts didn't respond as well in the beginning to a pump, but then eventually I got a huge supply. So
Yeah.
your baby is the one that helps you produce the milk. So if you fed every so often to bring in your milk instead of pumping, it'll work a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's so much in the topic, I think, of breastfeeding that we're just not covering. And to just try to remove that stigma around feeling uncomfortable and feeling like you're alone when it's not working for you, and to sort of understand that there's many women like you that experience, you can have, and every breastfeeding journey is different. You can have a completely successful journey with one child, and then it's the polar opposite with the next. And that's okay, and that is normal, and that you don't need to feel like you are alone, but to seek out other options that are out there. So what did you do in terms of your journey on trying to find the right bottle? What resources and things did you guys use to try to find what bottle to use, what formula to
Good old
use?
Google.
Google, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of Googling, which we probably shouldn't do, but we did talk to our health nurse that came to our house a few times as well about it.
Yeah.
And she suggested reflux bottles, which we went through choosing out which brand to use of those. And it just happens to be the first one we chose really worked. But it was also the formula we were using was too thin.
Yeah.
So we had to add thickener, which I never even knew existed until we needed it.
Yeah.
So apparently the thin formula we were using was making them vomit more.
Yeah.
So thickening it up, it held it in their gut a bit better.
Yeah.
And that really worked really well. But it was a lot of trial and error pretty much with bottles. You got to find the right teat your baby's actually going to like as well. So especially if they've been on the breast longer than what I did, which is 2 weeks. So my son, because I fed him till 10 months, he refused every plastic nipple I put in his mouth. So it's a lot of hard work when they're a bit older, because they don't want anything other than your breast.
Did you have trouble weaning him off at 10 months?
Oh yeah, I tried to wean him at 6 months. It took me that long, until 10 months, to get him off. Yeah. In the end, we actually had to add banana to his formula to get him to take it. So
they can be very stubborn on what they do and don't want.
Well, it was weird because he was eating solids then too. So we thought, a different change in taste won't really affect him, but it really did. Yeah. I think it was just the fact of a bottle in his mouth he didn't like.
Yeah, yeah. And because they know that you've still got that milk, they can smell, it's that smell connection that they have, and that comfort that they build up to, it's sort of like, when you think about it, for us, it's those routines that it's the habits that we have to kick. Sometimes the hardest part is the habit, if you're trying to stop drinking coffee, it's that habit of getting up in the morning, and that first thing you do is to put the pot of coffee on or to boil the kettle. It's cutting that behavior. It's the same for them, that those times that they're so used to getting up in the morning and having a feed, and to feed before they go to sleep, that are hard to kick for them as well.
That comfort.
Yeah. So did you find, with your social media presence, have you had any sort of judgment for your feeding, or you haven't too much shared your journey with that?
I have shared it. I had an influx of people inboxing me going, oh my God, I'm experiencing the exact same thing, and I thought I was alone. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it made me feel better about it as well, like getting it out there and sharing it, because I thought I was alone, that I was feeling down and thinking, oh my God, I'm a failure. I've only done this 2 weeks. How is this so hard? I've got the supply. Why can't I mentally do this? Like, I was pretty much blaming myself. And I had a lot of women reach out and go, I'm feeling the same. I thought maybe it was just me getting postnatal depression.
Yep.
Because that is probably another thing that you could get recently after having birth.
Yep.
But mine was definitely breastfeeding, because after I stopped, I was completely fine. My mental state was a lot better. I think I was happy to wake up my husband every couple of hours too, so that was a bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a great response from that. It was really good to get that from women.
Yeah, and I guess that is, that's how it is. It's not for everybody, and that we need to stop being so judgmental on women that aren't breastfeeding, because there are so many reasons why you might not be breastfeeding. And I think the fact that there's just not enough education on the flip side, we are a little bit too pro breastfeeding in our information, that we don't share with women that they might not get supply, that they might have excruciating pain. I've had women tell me that, they suffered through the bleeding nipples, that their babies were vomiting blood. And to me, it just blows my mind. But the pressure that you're putting on yourself to feed through this excruciating pain, because we've got so much pressure in the back of our head that breast is best. And we sort of forget that fed is best. The number one priority should be that our baby is fed. And then, if breastfeeding is working, but if it's actually causing you, severe physical discomfort and starting to affect your emotional state, that it's okay to not breastfeed at that point, because your mental health is also as important as your baby is to be fed. And there are other options for feeding your baby other than breastfeeding.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget to look after yourself as well. I mean, around the clock, you're constantly looking after this new little blob that can't do much.
Yeah.
You've got to change its bum, feed it and whatnot, but you're not actually looking after yourself as well. So a lot of women don't even talk about how they're feeling, and everyone just asks about the baby, but no one asks about the mother. So they don't really get a chance to say, no, I'm not feeling all right, or, no one asks the mother.
And that's a good point, ladies. Remember to ask your friends how they're doing first, because it is so true. Everybody just zooms in, laser focus on the baby, like, oh, how are they? Oh, they're so cute. And forget to say, how are you doing? And giving the space for women to actually say that we're not doing okay. I think there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, but the society's also put on, that we've got it together and that we're doing fine and that we've got everything under control, but that's actually not how most people are. Most people do not have it under control, and it's perfectly fine and normal to not have it under control with a newborn. We're not used to dealing with massive sleep deprivation. We're not used to dealing with this increased level of stress that comes with having a newborn baby, and they are all normal responses to have. And being not okay and not doing amazing is an okay response to have, and is really normal.
I was really lucky in that sense. I had some really great friends drop off coffees, and they knew with 2 newborns, like they've experienced with 1, which I did too, was so much easier. I look back now and go, oh my God, my first son was a breeze compared to these 2. But yeah, you have that friend support out there, and your family even, to give you that support, dropping coffees off. Having a conversation, anything
and
helps.
That's it. As something as little as a coffee can make such a huge impact to your day. It's just that little gesture that's about you when you've been up all night with crying babies that can't settle. It's those little things that let you know that somebody cares, and that giving that space. I think it's really important to sort of give new mums that space to talk, because I think that's something that we sort of are still lacking a lot, is that space to talk and knowing that it's okay to talk. The statistics now are sort of 1 in 8 women are at risk of postnatal depression, and it probably is higher. It's just that we're not talking about it. So it is really important to be having those conversations with new mums and sharing your story, so that, like you are today, to tell other mums that it is okay, it is normal, and you're doing a good job. I think that's something that you can be as women, we're very critical on ourselves. So to know that you are doing a good job, no
matter what you're doing, you're breastfeeding, you're bottle feeding, you're keeping this tiny human alive. You're doing an amazing job.
No, that's awesome. So are there any resources that you found that you'd really like to share with any mums out there that you found helpful, not necessarily around bottle feeding, but just, being a mum with 3 under 3, some resources that you found?
Well, our local hospital actually puts together a group of mums that have just given birth close within a month. I think a lot of hospitals actually do it. You just got to put your name down for it and be involved. So they put a group of names together and tell you a time and location to meet at the hospital, and that's your mother's group. I never did that with my first son, and I really regret it, because I've joined with the twins because I was like, I'm not staying at home for weeks on end in my PJs. I'm getting out, I'm meeting other women in the same situation as I am, going through this sleep deprivation and stress and all that. And it helps so much because they're all in the same exact situation. They're all at roughly the same age, bubs. So yeah, you can go through the teething, traumatic experience of teething, and when the sleep changes there, and when starting solids and all that. And even the support I got when I stopped breastfeeding from these mothers was amazing as well. So just having that little support group was my biggest thing to get through. And I'm sure a lot of hospitals, local hospitals in your area would do the same.
Or definitely even, using resources like Facebook and things like that to find local mothers groups in your area to find that support network. Because I think it is definitely so important, if you don't have friends that have sort of had babies at the same time as you, having that support network of like women that are going through the same things, that their kids are going through 4-month sleep regressions, and to know that that's normal. I guess that's the thing, the scariest part about babies, I guess, is the unknown, and knowing what's normal and what's not normal. And to get that sort of response from women that yes, no, like, yep, no, I've been through that. Like, yes, that is normal. That's perfectly fine. You aren't alone. Helps a lot to, our mental state. I think we need to definitely put a little bit more focus on our mental state, and that our mental state is definitely as important, and prioritizing you as well as babies. I guess it's very easy to put yourself as a mum in the second place always, but you can't really perform at a half-charged battery on full charge. So it's important to recharge yourself and to have that support for yourself as well.
Yeah, even if, like, I think it was in the first month I got home, my husband looked after all 3 of the kids while I went and got my hair done. Just that couple of hours on my own to really refresh and reset pretty much gave me that I could do this again. Like, I can start the next, night shift after a relaxation that day. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I'm sure that that's helped a lot of women to sort of, they've been through that and are experiencing those feelings around breastfeeding, or had those, might be coming up for a Caesar, to sort of understand a little bit more of what's there, and to start to just have more of those conversations where women are chatting more to their friends and being more open about what's going on in our lives. So thank you so much for coming on today.
No worries. Thank you, Tara.
Thanks. And we will be back with a new episode soon. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining another episode of the Hello Vagina podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you have, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode and you're notified when a new episode comes out. Also, we would love for you to tap some stars for us and to leave a review so that others can see how much you enjoyed the podcast and what we're all about. So don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, stay beautiful.